I see a lot of videos of women my age and men my age that are kind of just like settling in for the last chapter of life already. You know, we're in our late 50s, early 60s, and it's like, okay, this is what it is now, and this is who I am, and, you know, I'm just going to settle in and wait for the grave. You know, no big new plans, you know, because when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was building businesses, I was having kids, I was growing a life. And now it's like I'm on the downhill slope and just kind of riding out the coaster till it comes to a stop. And I was thinking about that today. It's like, that's not who I want to be. I was thinking the other day about how the pandemic just destroyed so many lives. And not by the illness itself, but just the shutdowns and I don't know, I was thinking about the person I used to be, I guess, is what I want to get at. And so many people my age. Before the pandemic, I'm walking my dog, he's getting me tangled. Before the pandemic, I was a different person. I was going out on the weekends, I was going dancing, I was singing karaoke. I've always been a little bit of a loner. That good party. I've always been a bit of a loner, but I was social. I went out, I did things. I was dating. You know, I had a life. And then the pandemic allowed me to become the worst version of myself. We were locked down. We couldn't go out. The bars were closed. The places we liked to go dancing were closed. The bands were no longer performing. I wasn't working. And I got very comfortable with being home and being in my space and not having to force myself to be around other people or be social. And I saw it happen to a friend of mine as well, only she is now. So when I talk about me, I say that I'm not naturally a social person, but I was forcing myself to do that. And by doing things that you feel uncomfortable about, you get better at it. And so by me forcing myself to, sorry, I'm going to spin around the leash here. By forcing myself to go out and do things, I made a really good friend. She kept me doing things and staying social, even though it wasn't in my nature to be that way. It created a person that I really was proud to be. And then the pandemic came, and we were all forced to stay home and not be social and get very comfortable in our jammy pants. And I dove into that because that was my natural nature, to be, you know, antisocial and kind of just by myself. And I've kind of been very happy that way the last, what has it been, 5 or 6 years now. I've really dived into that. Anyway, my girlfriend that I became real good friends with was very social, and it was completely natural for her to want to be around people. She's the type of person that will go sit in a restaurant or a bar by herself and just start talking to people, and that is not me necessarily. And so she brought out the best in me that way. Well, during the pandemic, she had just moved to the city from out here in the suburbs and got an apartment downtown, and was really excited about the change because she is so social. She thought, oh my God, living in the city is going to be amazing. I'm going to, meet all these people and all these activities and the theater and the restaurants and all the things. Well, as soon as she moved, we were shut down. And she was forced to leave her office, which she loved going to work. She loved the idea of getting up and getting ready and putting on her best clothes and going into the office and that professional life. She thrived on it. And then she would always go out after work and, have drinks with people or, have dinner and just the social life. And now she was locked down. And that spiraled her into a depression. I mean, not immediately, but over time it did. And, for me, I was like, well, what's the big deal? Because I was happy to be home. And I didn't realize how hard it was on her. And to this day, here we are 5 years later, and she's still kind of in a dark space. She's getting better, but her job is still a work from home job. She ended up moving back out here to the suburbs, but she's really struggling about, is this where she wants to live? Is this what she wants to do? She's kind of in decision paralysis, that they call it, where she doesn't know what she wants to do to be happy again. Because, like I said, the world changed, and all the things we used to do, we don't do anymore, whether out of habit, new habits, or the fact that those places aren't here anymore. The places that we, were our favorite haunts, you might say, are no longer here. And so now it's finding new places. And this is fine with me. I'm comfortable. I'm happy to be home alone. But then I started thinking, I liked the other version of myself a little better, though. I'm social when I go to work. I'm a hairstylist. And so by the end of the week, I've kind of had enough. And I'm ready to just kind of hang out at home, or maybe walk a trail like I'm doing right now, and just be alone. And I'm fine with that. But I also miss the person that I was before the pandemic and the social life. Sorry, I'm spinning so much. I'm trying not to get tangled in my puppy's leash. See, he's down there. And so I'm struggling, and I wonder if other people are too. Just kind of, here we are in midlife. I'm 58, and my girlfriend, she's a couple years older. I think she just turned 60. And, we talk about retirement coming up and our plans for that and all the things. And sometimes I think us Gen Xers, especially nowadays, and I'm saying this, I know I'm rambling, but, it is what it is. I'm saying this because I see a lot of videos of women my age and men my age that are kind of just like settling in for the last chapter of life already. We're in our late 50s, early 60s, and it's like, okay, this is what it is now, and this is who I am, and, I'm just going to settle in and wait for the grave. No big new plans, because when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was building businesses, I was having kids, I was growing a life. And now it's like I'm on the downhill slope and just kind of riding out the coaster till it comes to a stop. And I was thinking about that today. It's like, that's not who I want to be. I mean, this is not necessarily as good as it gets. Even though my life is amazing, there are still things I can do and places I can go and people to meet. And I'm making a decision that I am not just going to sit in the coaster and wait for it to come to the stop. I still want to climb those hills and, do those loops and do the fun things. And so I challenge you, my other Gen Xers out there, especially those like me that really enjoy a quiet, simple life without a lot of hoopla. Try to do something at least like maybe once a month that's out of your comfort zone. Because I feel like we don't quit having fun because we get old. We get old because we quit having fun. You know what I'm saying? I enjoy my grandkids and I do things with them. They do wear me out because I can't keep up with them like I did in my 20s and 30s. But, and I use that as an excuse that, well, I do things with my grandkids. I do this, I do that. But I'm not doing things with other people my age. I have no friends really, other than my one girlfriend, her and I have become very detached because of things she's going through and me shutting down and becoming a loner, probably when she's needed me most. So I am attempting to try to make sure, if not once a month, even once a week is my goal. I mean, I don't know if I'll stick to that, to try to do something out of my comfort zone or to try to do something social, which everything social is out of my comfort zone. Um, and to drag her out too, because she has become very unsocial since the pandemic, and that is not her nature, and that's what makes me sad. Like I said, my nature is to kind of just be by myself and walk in the woods, and this makes me happy, but for her, being alone makes her sad, but at the same time, she's having a hard time kickstarting her social life again, and so I feel like I need to be the friend that's going to make that happen. I can't sit comfortably by and watch her slowly fade away when she was so full of light and so full of joy, and she kept me going in many times when I couldn't. I just walked through the spider web and now it's on my face. Ugh. And we're spinning around the leash again. So anyway, some things I'm doing. Yesterday, I reached out to someone. She is an old client of mine, like from 10 years ago. And I had ran into her last summer, so a year ago, when I was walking downtown. And we just live in a small town. I was walking downtown and I ran into her, and she recognized me before I recognized her. And we started chatting, and we stood there on the sidewalk and chatted for probably 20 minutes, just about all kinds of things, catching up. Well, then we exchanged numbers, and we chatted back and forth, trying to get together, for a month or so, and she was busy and I was busy, and we had the kids and blah, blah, blah. And again, me being antisocial, I wasn't pushing as hard as I probably could have. But yesterday I thought, I'm going to reach out to her, because I had a client in my chair. I know I ramble, but it all comes to a point. I had a client in my chair who I've been doing forever, and her and I are friends in the chair. We don't really hang out outside of the salon, but we're very friendly, and we are very involved in each other's lives when we talk. And I was telling her, I said, I was just watching a TV show. It was Ransom Canyon, by the way. It's kind of a muted version of Yellowstone. It was really good. But they were line dancing. I said, I've always wanted to learn line dancing, but I'm so uncoordinated. I can't even do Zumba. And she got on her phone while I was doing her hair, and she found a beginner's line dancing class right down the road from where I live. And it's only 4 weeks. It's one Monday, for 4 Mondays, and it's at the rec center, and I can just go do it. And so she made me sign up. I bet people come up behind me, so we'll finish this in a bit. I paid the $40, which is not a big deal, but it's an investment. Because now I'll be more inclined to show up. So anyway, I immediately texted my friend that's been going through it, and I thought, she would love to do this. She's so social, she'd love to do this. Well, she's not up for it. So then back to the gal that I met on the street last summer. I looked in my phone and I found her number, and I texted her and I said, hey girl, it's been so long, we said we were going to get together and we weren't, and here's this class I'm going to start taking. Would you like to go? And she responded, and we talked about some other things, but it never came back to the class. So I think maybe that wasn't something she was interested in. So then I reached out to one other person that I thought might be interested. We do things once in a while, and she isn't interested either. So here's the thing about me. If I'm talking to the camera, I'm fine. If I go to a social event and I have just one person that I know that can be my, wingman, I'm great. I'm assertive, I'm talkative, whatever. But if I'm by myself and I don't know anybody, I'm a wallflower. I will just hide in the shadows. And I don't like to go to group events by myself. So going to this class, this line dancing class, is going to be a huge move for me. And I'm hoping I will go through with it. I'm filming this on Wednesday. The first class is next Monday. So you'll have to wait and see if I actually went. I'm signed up. I'm paid. I should go. We're waiting for Louie to sniff. So anyway, I've signed up for that. And then this Saturday, I am going on a hike, and a lot of times I'll just go by myself, but I did invite my friend, the one that's going through some things, and she said she'll go. So I'm really hoping she does. But I want to get back into, I put my motorcycle up for sale this summer because I don't have anybody to ride with. And honestly, I just don't like riding by myself. It's more fun to go in a group. And there are group rides that come up, but to show up by myself and go on a group ride like a poker run or something, it just isn't as fun if you don't know anybody. But my bike has not sold. And so I'm thinking that I may just take it off the market, and there's a poker run coming up here in 2 weekends, and I think I might do it. I reached out to one other woman that I don't know very well, but I know that she has a bike. And so I sent her a text and I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this ride. And she's busy, so that's out. And I'm going to see if maybe there's some other ladies. I actually belong to a couple of lady rider groups, but I've never gone on any of the rides because I don't know any of them. So I thought, well, maybe if I text one of them or two of them, and kind of get a rapport going beforehand, then I would at least have someone to meet there when I got there. So I might do that. Send me good vibes. Send me energy. But I've said all this to say this. I want to get back to the person I used to be. And that was before I gained 80 pounds. And that was before the pandemic. And that was before the cancer and the liver failure and the thyroid problems and the midlife crisis where I sold everything I owned and took off in an RV. I want to get back to that person that was loving life. And I do love life now, but it's a solo ride for me. And that's fine right now, but I know eventually it's not going to be fine anymore. And I don't want to become, I could say crazy cat lady, but I'm more of a dog person. I don't want to become that person that just, has no relationships at all. I have my kids and my grandkids, but they have their lives. I understand that. They're not people I call up and go to a movie with, or, go out to dinner and drink some things. And I need to start creating relationships where I have that. I have these two friends that I do some crafting with once in a while. And what's funny is I introduced them. I was friends with both of them pre-pandemic. And then during the pandemic, I dropped off the face of the earth, and then I took off in my RV, and those friendships went on the wayside, and those two have become very close, and I'm so happy for them because they get along great. But now when I join them for anything at all, which is rare, I'm usually not invited, I'm definitely the third wheel, and I don't feel that closeness that I had with them before. But that's my fault. I dropped off the face of the earth after the pandemic, and then I took off and ran away from home for a while, and I've been back now for a couple of years, and I've just been kind of doing the loner thing. I've just been by myself. I don't invite people to do things. I don't get invited to do things. And when I do get invited, I usually cancel last minute because I've allowed myself to get too comfortable. Sorry, we'll dance there. I've allowed myself to get way too comfortable just being alone. And it's not healthy. It's my peaceful place, yes, and I can get lost in a painting or a TV show, or I don't even realize I'm alone half the time. I'm fine with my little guy who's keeping up. But I need relationships, and I think we all do. That's the point of this video, is I think there's so many people like me out there in this age range, and especially post-pandemic when we had our social lives ripped out from underneath us, that just haven't gotten back to it or have settled into a quiet, peaceful life like we're 80 years old. It's fine when we're 80, but there's still a lot of life to live. And someone asked me the other day, are you going to live in the RV, forever? And I'm like, no. I says, but I'm trying in my life now not to plan too far ahead, because I've made that mistake in the past where I was working so hard towards the future that I wasn't experiencing today. And I said something to her that I heard someone else say, and it's like, honestly, we're just living on a rock that's hurling through space. Let's just make the most of every moment until we crash. And she laughed. And so, yeah, going forward, each day I'm going to try to figure out, who can I text? Who can I call? Who can I meet up with? And try to develop, maybe bring back some of the old relationships, or just create new ones. My best friend that's going through all the things, I met her because I randomly decided to go on a singles booze cruise in town, on the bay. And I just kind of put out on Facebook, does anybody want to go on this with me so I don't have to go by myself? And she answered. And she was a friend of a friend. I didn't know her. And we met up at that booze cruise, and we had the time of our lives. And we were best friends after that. We've been friends now. God, that was like 2013 or 2014. So, 10, 11 years. But these last 4 or 5 years have been rough. This is the pandemic. And I was with her a couple of weeks ago. We met up to go to dinner, and we hadn't seen each other in months. And a Facebook memory came up of that night we met on the boat. And I pulled it up, and we were just laughing in the picture and having a good time. And I showed her the photo. I said, what happened to these guys? And she was right. Where are those girls? I'm like, I don't know. She goes, well, we've gotten older. I said, yeah, but that's not it. It's something else. Something else happened. And we need to get those people back, because those were some pretty cool girls. I mean, we would do crazy things. One time there was a Def Leppard concert in Portland, which is like 3 hours from here. And she happened to score on some tickets. And we literally jumped on an Amtrak train with no luggage or anything, went down, walked from the train station to the venue, it was a couple miles, saw the concert. We were going to find a way back that night, ended up just staying in a cheap hotel overnight and then catching the Amtrak train back home the next day with nothing but our purses, And it was just fun, and it was spontaneous, and those girls are gone now, and I don't know why. I think they're gone because we've been in survival mode for too long. This generation has just been in survival mode for too long, and it's time to stop surviving and start thriving again, because we're only in our 50s, early 60s. We've got a good 20, 25 years left. We're going to sit here and wait for the coaster to stop? No, let's ride it. Let's ride it. After the cancer during the pandemic and the liver failure and all that, it was all kind of about the same time, from like 2019 to 2022. I really let myself get out of shape. Prior to that, stretch this out a little bit. Prior to that, I was going to the gym. I was swimming regularly. I was doing all kinds of things and staying in pretty good shape for my age. But again, this is, just before I turned 50. And into the first couple of years of 51, 52. And then, just the whole slowdown of life created, some weight gain and some atrophy in the muscles and weaker joints and all the things. And I've really been feeling my age this last year especially. And not because I think it's gotten any worse, but because I'm starting to pay more attention. I joke about my recliner being my, the love of my life. And, it still is. But my dog I had just before this, 6 months ago, she passed away. She was a Great Dane, and she was 9, so she didn't really like to walk. She'd go for short walks, but I use that as an excuse because, I can't go walk because she can't walk very far, and I don't want to leave her home alone, and, all the excuses. And so now I've got the puppy, and of course he loves to walk. He can walk all day and never stop. And so even though I'm just strolling, I'm out. I'm not in my recliner. I'm not watching Netflix, So that's a start. But when I say I want to get back to the person I used to be, I don't mean I want to be 20 years old again, but I do want to be able to climb a hill or maybe a couple flights of stairs without my heart pounding through my chest. My girlfriend, when I invited her on this hike this weekend, we're going on, there's some elevation to it because it's a waterfall hike, but it said it's fairly easy, and she's like, I don't know, I can't even do a flight of stairs anymore. I'm like, that's exactly why you need to go on the hike. So I'm hoping she won't bail on me, and we'll do this together. But prior to the pandemic, I had a Bowflex outside. Of course, who didn't have a Bowflex, right? I had, a stair stepping thing. I had free weights, and I would go out every morning on my covered deck, and I would do all that. Or, after that, I'd go out to, I belong to the Y, I'd swim, I'd do the weights, I'd walk the track, I'd do all the things, and then I just quit doing it all. I mean, like everything. I quit doing everything. And I wasn't even taking walks anymore. Ooh, it's warm out here. And it's amazing how fast your body just turns to crap. My knees hurt, my hips hurt, I have trouble sleeping. So a year ago, I went on the GLP-1 and I've lost 50 pounds. I just recently went back off of it. One, expense. Two, it started making me not feel so great. After I would take the shot the next day, I'd kind of be down for the count. And so I thought, I'm just going to go off it for a while. But now I've made videos. I've got the skin I'm dealing with, and it's like I almost prefer the fat over the flabby skin, but I know I'm healthier now. My joints don't hurt quite as bad. But now it's all about trying to eat right. I mean, during the pandemic, it was all about DoorDash and drive-through and all the things. I quit cooking. And so I'm going to start cooking again. And I don't know if I'm going to join a gym yet, but I'm definitely going to be walking more. I have been since I've gotten the puppy. I bought a couple of weights. Oh, that's what I was going to say. So back in the day, I would lift weights and I could do 35, 40-pound barbells in each hand and do weights, no problem, which isn't a ton, but, it was significant. I could do 20, 30 reps, wet rest, do another 20, 30 reps. Now I have 5-pound weights and I can barely do 20 or 30 reps with 5-pound weights. That is no bueno. So my goal is to get that weight up and start working the muscles again and hopefully get rid of some of this loose skin. I don't know. I may be too old for that to bounce back, but just little things like even just putting lotion on my skin. I wasn't doing that and my skin was dry and flaky and itchy. And so this week I've just started putting lotion on every morning on my arms and legs. I was like, it feels so much better. And today I got my hair done and I got my nails done, and not that that's going to be life-changing, but it does make me feel better and makes me want to maybe get out a little more. And so, yeah, I just want to be the person I used to be. And when I say that, it's more of a mindset than anything. I don't want to think that this is as good as it gets and I'm in my last chapter of life and so let's just write it out. We only get so many days on this earth, and I guess we have to choose how those days are going to go. There's going to come a time in our lives, and some of us are already there, even at this age, where you can't get out and you can't do things. You're hooked up to a machine or you're in a wheelchair or whatever. And those of us that aren't there yet, let's not rush it. Let's go sliding into, the graves, and what a hell of a ride. So I challenge you, do something very soon that's out of your comfort zone. Don't overdo it. Don't want to pull anything. You want to be able to get up and do it again. But start thinking about how you can have fun. And it doesn't have to cost money. It doesn't have to cost you any money. It can be something simple. There's a lot of free classes, a lot of things at community events. If you belong to a church, there's lots of things going on there. Some of you may qualify for a free Y membership. Get involved in maybe water aerobics or something, If you can't afford to go out to eat, invite some friends over for dinner. Let's not go out quietly. We're Gen X. We need to leave our mark.